Inflation and debt, those are going to top the agenda. Let's just start with the inflation story. Different in every country around the world, but we live in a globalized economy. So could we see a more harmonized approach in terms of addressing inflation risk worldwide?
Yes, well, good morning. First of all, I'm delighted to join you. And indeed, we are already having our meetings and partially online, and so in a very different time zone. And we have already started to see a number of the topics emerging. First and foremost, continues to be, of course, the evolution of the pandemic and the impact of Omicron and other possible developments in the coming months. But secondly, there is concern about inflationary pressures, and obviously also the other geopolitical instability which is emerging, and you were just discussing in your program a moment ago. Concerning inflation, our main concern has to do with the underlying reasons, which is the surge of international gas prices, which is then spreading to the whole of the energy markets. And that obviously can have a very negative impact on potential growth.
Now, you did briefly just touch on there what is basically headlining all news programs around the world at the moment, the Ukraine crisis. I understand it's not what you're heading to the G20 meetings to discuss specifically. It's the economic side of things. But I do have to ask you, from that point of view, you've just mentioned energy. What else will be economically concerning to all of you in the central bank and finance minister space from the Ukraine crisis?
Well, obviously, any geopolitical tensions are a source of concern, and the potential impact on energy prices is probably the most direct concern for all of us. This is a source of instability, uncertainty, where we haven't finished tackling the pandemic, and where recovery is still starting, and therefore we need to focus really on our multilateral cooperation to take the right policy measures to support growth, job creation, and a strong recovery throughout the world. This is where we should be focusing, and obviously there is concern about other sources of instability emerging.
Yeah, I mean, where this meeting is taking place, Indonesia, they've recorded daily case counts of tens of thousands in the last couple of days. We are so not past the pandemic, especially in that part of the world. So how do more developed countries need to work together to ensure a more equitable recovery worldwide?
Indeed, what we have seen in Spain is that we had a very strong vaccination program, and that has allowed us to face Omicron in a very different manner compared to the previous waves. Actually, the economic impact has been much smaller, and this probably is paving the way for a new approach to the pandemic. But that is so in those countries which have had access to the vaccines, and so we are very strongly supporting an equitable access to vaccines. This is a subject that comes up in each and every one of our discussions. And I think that it's quite obvious we're all in the same boat. We will not be safe until everybody's safe. And we have every interest in supporting international and multilateral efforts so that all citizens throughout the world have access to the vaccines. Spain is very strongly supporting these, and we are one of the largest donors, and we will continue with this solidarity and intelligent, I think, approach worldwide to fight a global pandemic.
And in terms of looming crises, debt, we've already spoken just briefly about it, but let's dive into that because that is going to form a large part of this meeting. It was only just yesterday the World Bank was warning that rising inflation, interest rates and alarming levels of debt distress could trigger a global chain reaction not seen in generations. So from your point of view, how big a risk is a spate of debt crises?
Well, obviously, debt to GDP ratios have increased throughout the world as a result of the pandemic. Both public and private debt increased in the past 2 years. Luckily, in Spain, we just got the data today, and we see that the debt to GDP ratio reduced already in 2021 by 1.3 percentage points. So we have already started our fiscal consolidation path last year, and we will pursue this path. But there is a global concern about this accumulation of high debt levels. But fortunately, I think we did take the right measures in phase one, fighting the pandemic. We had a coordinated fiscal and monetary policy response, and this has enabled us to preserve financial stability in phase one. So I think we should just pursue the same coordination and multilateral support approach, providing debt relief to most vulnerable countries, reinforcing our international financial instruments, notably in the World Bank and the IMF. And this should help us also succeed in phase two, the recovery.
Multilateral coordination, yes. Debt relief, yes. But should we be taking bigger steps in terms of debt amnesties or writing off debts? China, of course, is in the G20. It's one of the world's single largest creditors. What do you think the G20 needs to push more from China from this?
Well, these two subjects, how to reinforce our financial support instruments, the new funds that have been created by the IMF, the reorientation of the SDR exceptional allocation that took place last year to most vulnerable countries to support not only low but also mid-income countries. All these debates are surely going to take place in the run-up to the spring meetings. And likewise, we will be cooperating and working in other fora, such as the global agreement, the Paris Agreement, with a view to providing debt relief to most indebted and vulnerable countries. What I see is a very strong focus on these two subjects, and we should obviously reach effective responses, provide effective responses that continue to ensure financial instability in this recovery phase that is now starting, because we're all, as I said a moment ago, we're all in the same boat in ensuring that this is not just a temporary rebound, but a strong recovery that reaches all countries throughout the world.
Absolutely. And, a big part of everything, of course, is tax. It's a headline that we've been watching from out of these countries for a long time, this idea of a global minimum corporate tax proposal. Are we on schedule to see that in place by 2023?
Well, we are on track. We will be discussing it tomorrow at the G20 meeting, and I think that there is a broad consensus on the need to drive and to implement this agreement that was so important last year. In the case of Europe, I am sure that we will be pressing ahead with the implementation of this minimum tax, because at the end of the day, the run to the bottom with corporate taxes is impoverishing all public sectors throughout the world at a point in time when we need to reinforce our health systems, our health response, both at national and also at international level, if we want to have a more resilient economies going forward.
Hi, I'm Joanna Bersecci, and thank you for watching. You can check out more of our videos by clicking on the boxes on the screen. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more from CNBC International. Thank you for watching.